My entitled sister abandoned her 3 children, so I raised them. Years later, they offer me money as a thank you, but she demands it ***. Hey Reddit, I'm Lucy, 49F, and what I'm about to share has been weighing on me for years. My sister Marissa, 45F, has a way of turning up and causing chaos whenever things are finally starting to go right. I thought I was done with her drama for good, but after recent events, it's clear that I can't escape it, no matter how much time has passed. Growing up, Marissa and I couldn't have been more different. She was the free spirit, the one who had a flair for adventure and a knack for getting herself into trouble. I, on the other hand, was the reliable one, the person who tried to keep things together, especially after our dad left when we were young. Our mom worked long hours to keep a roof over our heads and put food on the table, so I took on the role of caretaker for Marissa, even though I was just a few years older. It wasn't easy, but I loved her. And for a while, I thought she loved me too. Marissa's rebellious streak only got stronger as we got older. By the time she was 20, she dropped out of college, moved in with a guy she barely knew, and started partying every other night. I worried about her, but no amount of pleading or reasoning would get through to her. She was on her own path, and nothing I said would change that. Eventually, Marissa met Jason, a guy who was as reckless as she was. They fell for each other hard and fast, and before I knew it, they were married and had 3 kids in quick succession, Tom, Ava, and Jake. I tried to be supportive. I thought maybe having children would help her settle down and see the importance of stability. But instead, it seemed like the added responsibility only weighed her down. She'd call me, sounding exhausted, venting about Jason, about the kids, about how hard it all was. I tried to encourage her, telling her that things would get better if she just stuck it out and focused on building a good life for her family. Then came the night that changed everything. Marissa showed up on my doorstep, unannounced, with a single suitcase and a frantic look in her eyes. The kids were staying with our mother for the evening, and I thought maybe Marissa just needed a break. But as we talked, she revealed something shocking. She was planning to leave the country. She'd found a new opportunity overseas and needed to take a few months to find herself. She said it so casually, like it was just a weekend getaway, not a life-altering decision. When I asked her about the kids, she shrugged and said, "They'll be fine with you, won't they? You're so much better at this whole parenting thing anyway." I felt a pang of anger and sadness, but more than that, I felt an overwhelming sense of duty. How could I turn her away when 3 young lives were depending on her, and now, on me? I agreed, thinking that maybe this was just a temporary setback, that Marissa would come to her senses and return to her kids. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a phase. Marissa had always run from responsibility, and now she was running again. The months turned into years. Marissa never returned, and I became the kids' full-time guardian. I had to put my own dreams on hold, sacrificing my savings, my time, and even my relationships. I went from being Aunt Lucy to Mom in their eyes. They'd ask about Marissa sometimes, especially Tom, who had memories of her. But as time went on, even he stopped asking. I told them as much of the truth as I thought they could handle, explaining that their mom was working on herself and would come back when she was ready. But I knew better. I knew that Marissa was out there, living her life without a single thought for the family she'd left behind. As the years passed, the kids thrived. Tom, the oldest, was a natural with computers and ended up with a full scholarship to a top university. Ava, always compassionate and driven, decided she wanted to become a doctor. Jake, who had been just a baby when Marissa left, grew into a curious, smart, and kind young man. I was so proud of them, not just for their achievements, but for the kind, resilient people they'd become. They didn't let Marissa's abandonment define them. Instead, they grew stronger, relying on each other and on me. Then, a few months ago, something incredible happened. The kids, now young adults, surprised me with a gift that left me speechless. They had pooled their money together and handed me a check, saying it was a thank you for everything I'd done for them. They told me to use it to travel, to go after my own dreams, to finally live a life for myself. I was so touched I couldn't hold back the tears. I'd never asked for anything from them, all I ever wanted was for them to be happy. But their gesture made me feel seen and appreciated in a way I hadn't felt in years. But then, out of nowhere, Marissa showed up. I hadn't seen or heard from her in over a decade, and yet here she was, standing on my doorstep like nothing had happened. She was wearing expensive clothes, and it was clear she hadn't been struggling. She greeted me like we were old friends, asking to see her kids, calling it a long overdue family reunion. I was too shocked to speak, but before I could process it, she started talking about the money. Apparently, she'd seen Tom's social media post about the gift, and she wasn't happy. She told me that as their real mother, she was entitled to a share of the money, that it was only fair since they wouldn't be here without her. I was furious. Here was the woman who'd left her children, who'd abandoned her family, demanding the money they had gifted to me out of gratitude. I told her, firmly, that the money was not hers and that the kids had given it to me as a way of saying thank you. Marissa's face twisted with anger, and she accused me of turning her children against her, of stealing them and poisoning them against her. I couldn't believe her audacity. After everything she'd put us through, she had the nerve to try and guilt me. The kids were livid when they found out. They confronted Marissa, telling her in no uncertain terms that they didn't want anything to do with her. They told her that I was the one who'd been there for them, that I was their mother in every way that mattered. Marissa tried to manipulate them, claiming she'd always planned to come back, that circumstances had prevented her from returning sooner. But the kids saw right through her lies. They told her to leave and made it clear that they wanted no relationship with her. But Marissa wasn't done. A few days later, I received a letter from her lawyer. She was suing me, claiming she had a legal right to the money as their biological mother. Her argument was that, since she'd never officially relinquished her parental rights, she was entitled to a share of any financial gifts her children received. I was stunned, horrified. It felt like a slap in the face, an attack on everything I'd sacrificed and worked for. I couldn't believe that she'd stoop this low, that she'd try to take away the one thing the kids had given me out of love. The legal battle was long and draining. Marissa's lawyer argued that I had alienated her from her children, that I'd kept them away from her, poisoning them against her so I could take advantage of them. But I had years of evidence, text messages, emails, and statements from friends and family, proving that she'd abandoned her children and left me to pick up the pieces. Eventually, the judge saw through her lies and dismissed her case. Marissa stormed out of the courtroom, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. After the ruling, Marissa tried to reach out again, sending me a letter claiming she forgave me and wanted to be part of our family again. But the kids had made up their minds. They blocked her on all their social media, deleted her number, and made it clear that they wanted nothing to do with her. Now, for the first time in years, I'm focusing on myself. The kids are still by my side, and I'm grateful every day for the family we've built together. They're my children in every way that matters, and we're stronger without Marissa's toxic presence in our lives.